Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's update with FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell. The purpose of today's call is to discuss FEMA's recovery efforts to Hurricanes Milton and Helene. This is Michael Hart. I'm with FEMA's Region 4 Press Office, and I'll be your host today. Administrator Criswell's remarks will be on the record. She's going to begin here shortly with opening remarks, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Please limit your questions to one with one follow-up if necessary. And also, please state your full name and outlet before asking your question. And lastly, please wait until I have called on you before asking your question. And with that, I'll now turn it over to the administrator.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here today in North Carolina, where we continue to help communities recover from Hurricane Helene, as is true for the rest of the states that were impacted by this massive storm. Over the past few days, I've been side by side with Governor Cooper, visiting the far reaches of the western part of North Carolina, assessing damages, talking to people, and getting a better sense of what is needed by the unique communities we have set out to serve. I have heard incredible stories of resilience and survival, like a mother and a son-in-law who escaped the floodwaters in a canoe and survived for hours, clinging to a tree in their yard with their dog, which they now call Miracle Max, in tow. A family that is now on the road to recovery, replacing their appliances and insulation in their waterlogged home and beginning to rebuild. Hearing these stories, talking to people who lived through them, helps ground us in this work. And it helps make sure that we stay focused to reach every survivor and help every person. This is what our disaster survivor assistance, or DSA, teams do each and every day. And so today I want to talk a little bit about our individual assistance program, the funding that we're able to put into people's hands who need it the most. And this individual assistance program, this is what our DSA teams are doing in the field, helping people to register for this assistance. And I wanted to start by addressing the issue that I have heard over the last few days about the ability or the denials that people have not been getting the assistance. I've heard that there's been reports of survivors being denied immediately for the assistance, but I want to clarify that these are not denials, but often a need for additional information, paperwork, or documentation of what's damaged. So I encourage everybody, if you've gotten one of these letters, read the entire letter. It will tell you what else finish processing your case. This is the thing. Recovery is really complicated, but we want to make sure that every survivor gets the assistance they are eligible for to get back on their feet. So let's talk a little bit more about what individual assistance exactly is. This is the program where we at FEMA can put money into the pockets of survivors to cover a variety of different things. Under this funding, we have a variety of programs to make sure that we are meeting people where they are. We can provide an upfront payment to help people cover essential items like food, water, baby formula, or medications, the immediate needs that they have. But this money does not need to be paid. After funding to help people who are now living with a relative or a friend and still need to cover groceries, supplies, or other associated costs. We have rental assistance to help cover temporary housing costs if their home is unlivable after a storm blows through. And this is for homeowners and renters alike. We even have money to help cover the lost personal items like a computer, or for self-employed individuals that need to continue to make their living, like art supplies. This list can go on, but these are just a few examples of the type of funding resources we have available. So I think what I'm really trying to get across for everybody here today is that FEMA is here for the people. We have specific programs to help meet them where they are so they can jumpstart their recovery. But it's also important that people take that first step and that they apply for assistance. We have a few ways that people can do that. The first is by going online to disasterassistance.gov. You can also call us at 1-800-621-FEMA or 1-800-621-3362, or you can go through the FEMA app. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we also have disaster survivor assistance teams that are out in the community. They're at places like our disaster recovery centers, fire stations. They're in grocery store parking lots. They're also walking door to door to help register people in person, trying to meet them where they're at instead of making them always come to us. And right now we have nearly 1,000 DSA personnel across the entire region, including 251 in Florida, 152 in Georgia, 379 in North Carolina, 92 in South Carolina, 48 in Tennessee, and 57 in Virginia. These DSA teams are made up of FEMA personnel whose entire job it is to go door to door, person by person, to make sure that every eligible survivor has the opportunity to get the assistance they need. Again, you can find them across your neighborhoods, but also in our disaster recovery centers. And these are important places for the community. These will be our longer term locations, which are central hubs where individuals can go to register for assistance, but they can also go check on their case and see if they have any additional paperwork that needs to be given to them. And it's also a place where they can connect with some of our other federal partners, as well as our state partners. We'll have different resources in there to help meet any other needs that our programs perhaps cannot. Right now, we have over 30 DRCs across the entire region, including 11 in Florida, 4 in Georgia, 6 in North Carolina, 6 in South Carolina, and 1 in Tennessee, and 4 in Virginia. So all of this is to say that FEMA has many options for individuals and for households to register for our individual assistance program. And as they do, we can also do that in a variety of different languages. And we're working very hard to be able to reach as many people as possible. So far, post Helene, over 1 million individuals have registered across the entire region, including over 171,000 here in North Carolina. We've been able to distribute over $580 million in funding directly to these people to help start them on their road to recovery. And as of yesterday, we have officially distributed over $100 million just here in North Carolina. And that's just for Hurricane Helene. In Florida, we had nearly 600,000 people from Hurricane Milton register for assistance. And we've been able to distribute over 16 million directly to those who need it most. These unprecedented and historic numbers for FEMA. And I am so proud of the FEMA workforce that has been working day in and day out to achieve this milestone. And we will continue to do everything we can to reach every survivor and get them all of the funding that they are eligible for. So in closing, tomorrow I'll give you some additional updates on the other recovery projects that we are doing across the region. We'll dive into the work that we're doing on repair and restoring critical infrastructure in communities, and generally how progress is coming along across all states impacted. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Michael, so I can take questions.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for that information and those remarks. We'll now open it up for questions. And as a reminder, please raise your hand if you have a question and state your full name and outlet when called upon. Let's start with Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much for having this. This is Rebecca from the Associated Press. 2 questions. There was an incident on Saturday that just came to light today where FEMA staffers were harassed in a remote region of Tennessee. We were told by the local sheriff that it was a small group of people who were armed that were harassing the FEMA staffers. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what exactly happened during that incident? And then I had a second question on the denials. I'm wondering why, if FEMA constantly says, that denials, they want more information to read the entire letter thoroughly, why not just call it something different? Why is it called a denial? Why not tell you we're just reaching out to you for more information?
Yeah, Rebecca, good. I think we
And I'm so sorry that, but I can't hear you very well. The signal keeps going in and out, and I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end.
you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
All right. Maybe it's not, I don't know who's ended on, but I'll keep
Yeah.
going, Rebecca. And if we need to
Thank
get
you.
back to you with an answer, we certainly can. I think, as far as the Tennessee incident, have had different reports of different things across all of the states that are impacted. I'm sure you're aware of the one that we received on Saturday here in North Carolina, where I felt the information was important enough for me to withdraw some of our staff from the field in order to validate, what was accurate and what was inaccurate. I would say across all of the states, we are in close connection with all of the officials, local law enforcement that are supporting our team that continue to go out in the field, because making sure that my staff are safe is the biggest priorities, because we know that there's a lot of people in need, and we want to make sure that we are giving them all of the protection that they need to feel comfortable going out and helping these people register for assistance. And that's what we'll continue to do. And on the denials, what I would say is they're not denials. I think that's the part that I was trying to get across. This is, you're not yet approved, or you're not approved for assistance yet. It's not a denial. And so what I want people to do is not see that initial language at the top of a letter that says you're not approved yet, and go down and read why. And because we need more information, we need to get a copy of your insurance policy, or we need documentation of the type of damage to your home. But they're being called denial letters. And again, they're not denial letters. They're just letters that are saying you're not approved yet and we need more information. And we continue to try to make improvements on these letters so the language can be simpler and easier. It sounds a lot easier than it is, but we continue to actually reach out to people and ask them to help us with the wording on that. And every disaster, we continue to refine and make changes to that so we can make it simpler. But the most important message is, please just read the whole thing, because there's information in there of what we need to help you, or come into one of our disaster recovery centers, because they will be able to work with you and help you understand what additional documentation we can help you upload it right there.
Next question is from Tom Frank. Tom, over to you. And then after Tom, Luke, you will be up.
Hi, thanks very much. Hi, Administrator. Do you have a latest number for the Disaster Relief Fund, and any update on where things might be with regard to INF?
Yeah, I don't have today's number, but as of yesterday's number, it was just over 8.5 billion remains in the Disaster Relief Fund. I still am confident that we are going to be able to continue to support the life-saving efforts across all of the states for both Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. But we are, Tom, continuing to assess every day of when I'm going to have to go back into INF, which means pausing the permanent recovery projects, the reimbursement for these permanent repair projects, so I can ensure I still have enough money for the life-saving operations, especially since hurricane season is not over.
If I can just quickly follow up. I've noticed that some disaster centers in various states are being closed, in some cases earlier than expected. Do you have a sense of how many are being closed, and is that because people are being moved to the Milton and Helene affected areas?
I would have to get back with you to find out specifically. I don't have any information of any that were closed, other than in Florida after Helene, we closed some down as we prepared for Milton, but they have been reopened. But if there's any other that you're aware of, I'm happy to get you offline.
Hey, Tom, it's Michael here. I know you're familiar with the headquarters news desk inbox address. I'll be giving that at the end of the call. And if you have any follow-ups on this topic, or if we do not have time to get to any questions after our time limit, everyone will be able to send those questions into the news desk inbox there. So let's go over to Luke. You're up.
Hi, Administrator Criswell. Thank you for doing this. Do you mind just going into FEMA's use of Starlink and sort of there's been some reporting out there that a certain individual tried to get Starlink. Can you just kind of go into what the department's contract is with Starlink and how much use it is? Like I said, there's been some reporting that the former president called Elon Musk and got Starlink, but can you kind of go into just the department's contract with Starlink?
Yeah, I mean, we've been using Starlink, Luke, for a long time. The first place I really saw it used widespread was in Maui after the wildfires, where we had put it in different places across Maui, and we've continued to use it in different disasters since then. It's been a great tool for us here in North Carolina for sure. And I know that we've deployed, some of the terminals into some of the other locations in other states as needed, but the most significant use has been here in North Carolina. And the last number I had, which was, Luke, honestly, a few days ago, so we'll get you what the exact number is, but it's well over 70 terminals that we had put out into the community. And as we put Starlink out into the community, we cover all of the costs that go with that. And so we've been delivering them to emergency operations centers, county administration buildings, fire departments, and so forth. But also our own teams use them. I have one that we carry with me to make sure that I could get online and make phone calls as needed. Our urban search and rescue teams utilize them. Our military partners, I believe, have them. And so we want to make sure that given the geographic challenges in this area and the lack of communications, that all of our staff have the ability to communicate back, but also we're creating opportunities for the local community. And it's really been an incredible benefit to the people in the communities. And so that's how we're using it. Yeah, I can't speak to, how any private citizen has been using Starlink and bringing it in, but that's how we've been doing that.
Thank you so much.
All right. And just as a reminder, again, please state your full name and outlet before asking your question. So let's go over to Keith Burbank.
Thank you, Administrator. My name is Keith Burbank. I'm with the Stewart News and TC Palm on the Treasure Coast of Florida in Martin County, where we had the tornadoes. I was just wondering if you could say when FEMA plans to open a DRC, a Disaster Recovery Center in Martin County, if you can say when and or if you are, and if so, when and when that might be open, please.
Yeah, Keith, I was able to visit Martin County and talked with people that were impacted by those tornadoes and, saw the level of damage there. This is certainly an area that we will be opening a disaster recovery center, but I'll have to have my team get back to you on the exact time and date. We work that in coordination with the state of Florida to know where they want to put it exactly, and then with the county officials to have the right site. I don't have it right here in front of me, but we will be having one there. I just don't know the exact date. And so we'll get back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Administrator.
And I would just add, in the meantime, that's where, while we wait to open up our disaster recovery centers, we send our disaster survivor assistance teams into these communities to help walk around and talk to people. They can also look up the cases on their iPads and so forth. And so if there's not any there, I believe that there's some in Martin County, but we'll make sure that they are while we're waiting for the DRC to open.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is from, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, Sehal.
Hi, this is Sejal Parekh with ABC News. I want to understand what's been done to expedite getting municipal water supply back to nursing homes in the Asheville area.
Yeah, that would be a question that I would have to defer you to the state for the specifics. We have brought in the Army Corps of Engineers for some technical expertise that's been able to help facilitate. We have some staff on the ground that are helping to coordinate, but the details of all of the steps that have been taken would be something better for the state to answer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Tom, let's go back to you and then Keith.
didn't have another question, but I could think of something.
No, Tom, you still had your hand up, but actually, let's
I'm
go
sorry.
to
Well, what about the
Megan.
Mets tonight?
I think we're experiencing a connection problem with the administrator. Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you,
Ma'am, we
Michael.
lost you there on your Mets remark. If you'd like to repeat that.
I said I'm a bigger football fan than a baseball fan.
Let's go to Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Grebner with Brownfield Ag News. Can you talk a little bit about how the U.S. Department of Agriculture is working with FEMA to assist in some of the flood and structural damage restorations, as well as helping farmers and producers in that area get back online?
Yeah, I've had some conversations with the Deputy Secretary for Agriculture early on in this, because we know that a lot of the parts of Florida and Georgia had significant impacts to the agricultural industry. They are the ones that have the primary means of supporting those communities with some of the damages and impacts. But we work together to create farm recovery centers. We did this after Hurricane Idalia. I think that was just last year, and plan to do the same thing with the U.S. Department of Agriculture going forward. So, you know, with them on exactly where to put them and when they would be open, so we can help support those communities.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's all the time we have for today. If there was some slight connectivity problems there, so if anyone didn't get the full response from the administrator because of the connectivity issues, please just send them to the headquarters news desk inbox, and that address is FEMA-news-desk@fema.dhs.gov. I'll say that one more time, FEMA-news-desk@fema.dhs.gov. Thank you. Thanks everyone for your time today. That concludes today's press call. All parties are free to drop.